I think it's pretty safe to say that by far the true driving force for the hype of this movie all has to do with the return of Emperor Palpatine, also known as Darth Sidious, being portrayed by Ian McDiarmid once more in the Skywalker saga. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, one thing about Palpatine that a lot of fans are really looking forward to is, of course, to see exactly how he is going to be in motion, visually speaking, on the big screen, and exactly how JJ, Chris Terrio, George Lucas are going to utilize this character in Episode 9, and how his interactions really will be with both Kylo Ren and Rey, and what kind of revelations will be revealed in this film connected to Palpatine himself. Now, that's the thing about Sidious, is that they are making Sidious in this way in order to really bring all the 9 Star Wars movies together, which is smart by Disney and Lucasfilm to a certain extent, but the only thing that I do disagree with is the fact that Palpatine was able to essentially survive the second Death Star explosion alive and well, and is back in the flesh without ever actually dying. I think that's the one thing that a lot of fans are going to disagree with. However, we do know that this film is going to take a lot of risks and, of course, provide many different twists and turns. Now, on top of all of this, these past couple of weeks or so, we were learning a whole lot more about this film, and what's really intriguing about all of this has all to do with Palpatine. Now, specifically, shot descriptions consisting of a sequence where it's explained that Kylo Ren is said to make his way down to the world of Exegol with his Knights of Ren, where they are said to approach a large cube-like structure that is said to be the base that belongs to Emperor Palpatine, where he is said to reside underground. It's explained that as Kylo Ren and his Knights of Ren enter the base, they take an elevator down to Palpatine's lair, where Sidious is said to be seen laying down on a medical table, almost like a bed more or less, with 4 Sith loyalists surrounding Sidious that are decked in black armor. It's said to actually eventually be a moment in which Kylo and Palpatine converse, where Sidious begins to unveil some secrets about himself and how he survived the fall of the second Death Star by using a power that initiates a wormhole that he was actually able to learn from the power of the Beyond. It's explained that the upcoming film, novelization, and visual dictionary, where it'll go more into Palpatine's backstory and how he was able to survive the second Death Star, where it's explained that the upcoming film, novelization, and visual dictionary will also go over Palpatine's story after Return of the Jedi and even before that, and that on the world of Jakku, Palpatine had a place called the Jakku Observatory while he was still alive. Here, Palpatine was able to discover the hyperspace routes to the unknown regions and to the beyond. This is exactly where Sidious created his own personal Wayfinder device by transferring the coordinates into a small triangular device that looks like a holocron but is not, that Rey will later discover at the second act of Episode 9. During Palpatine's time on Jakku, before his supposed death, it's said that he felt a dark and sinister presence, and was searching for this dark entity for years, that ended up being Supreme Leader Snoke, where Sidious and Snoke would often mentally connect. Also, during Palpatine's time on Jakku is when he used the ability he learned from his master Darth Plagueis. It's established in the film that Palpatine learned the power to create life through his master Plagueis by tapping into Plagueis' mind just before he killed him in his sleep, and that only when Plagueis was asleep was Sidious able to retrieve the knowledge he needed and killed him afterward. Now, during Palpatine's time on Jakku, he would use this power that is said to have a connection to Rey's lineage and her parents that will be explained in the third act of the movie, where after Palpatine's fake-out death in, of course, Episode 6 on the second Death Star, he traveled to the world of Exegol, where he claimed one of the Dark Temples as his new base and throne room. In the Dark Temple, Palpatine would often communicate with Sith spirits of the past that would grant him further knowledge about the Beyond. The Beyond is the most powerful force nexus in the entire galaxy that allows Sidious to gain great power. While Palpatine was on the world of Exegol, he had trained another apprentice, off, of course, Darth Vader, and after the failure of turning Luke Skywalker to the dark side, and that this character was a dark acolyte that traveled to the world of Exegol, where Palpatine would train him to become his new Sith apprentice, where he was never to be found again after traveling to the very center of the Beyond. After the loss of his apprentice of 3 years, Sidious eventually became weak due to not just his age, but also due to the dark side energy on the world of Exegol taking a toll on his body that actually made him age faster. Now, additionally, this is where Sidious would eventually begin to realize that there was another Skywalker by blood, where Sidious would feel Ben Solo's presence as a child, and though Leia always believed it was Snoke watching over her child since birth, it was actually Palpatine watching over Ben Solo from afar, seeing his every thought and move while he grew up and was neglected by his own parents. And that both Palpatine and Snoke play big roles in turning Ben Solo to the dark side of the Force separately. Palpatine realized that the rise of Rey and Ben Solo and knew that this was his ticket to eternal life by use of the Force conduit technique that would allow him to become younger by rejuvenating himself while also keeping his own body. Palpatine learned the power of essence transfer, however it was only able to be done with a compatible host body, or a clone of himself, that Sidious believed was too risky to do, without having other options before the new host body would decay rapidly. Sidious planned to wait years upon years for both Ben and Rey to find each other, and that Sidious would even mask himself to be the spirit of Darth Vader to trick Kylo Ren into traveling to the world of Exegol. When Kylo was actually talking to the melted Vader helmet, believing it was Vader's spirit, it was really Palpatine reaching out to him, slowly luring him to Exegol, which of course happens in Episode 9. Palpatine had once tried to create clones that were created by Jakku on the world of Jakku, however, unfortunately, were destroyed during the Battle of Jakku after his faked-out death on the second Death Star. Sidious was never able to be sensed by Luke or Leia during his time on Exegol due to the constant lightning storms that surround the atmosphere of the world. So let's go over a couple of parts about this and as to why I like this in-depth look into Palpatine's life after the events of Return of the Jedi, and little bits and pieces before the events of Episode 1, where he killed his master Darth Plagueis. Now, I want to go over Palpatine's new power. Now, a lot of fans out there are very, I guess you could say, what's the best way to describe this? Very concerned about how Palpatine is coming back into play here, alive and well in the flesh, and whether or not that really means that Anakin's sacrifice was pretty much meant for nothing in the Return of the Jedi film. And I can understand that completely, I do, because yes, at the end of the day, Anakin saved his son Luke. I can totally understand that. It was for a specific reason. But the very end of Episode 6 made you believe that Anakin was the one who destroyed the Sith once and for all. Now keep in mind that Disney and Lucasfilm are setting up The Rise of Skywalker to be a movie where the prophecy of the Chosen One is actually going to continue, and that everything related to Palpatine in the prophecy, this dark energy or this dark side entity, is going to continue as well. So the other piece that I do want to go over is, of course, this Force conduit technique. It allows him to rejuvenate himself, bringing himself to a more youthful state without using the power of essence transfer, which Palpatine also learned. He could have used this, but he did not, and it may very well make sense as to why the initial cut of the movie actually had a dark acolyte villain that was possessed by the Sith spirit of Palpatine. And that dark acolyte most likely was that Sith apprentice that Palpatine trained on the world of Exegol that we just talked about. So in the new cut of the film, it's going to be explained that Palpatine had at least one apprentice after Darth Vader's death and after failing to turn Luke Skywalker on, of course, his second Death Star. And that's going to be a very interesting story to tell in the new expanded universe, either in novels, books, comics, video games even, graphic novels. I mean, the list goes on with Disney and Lucasfilm, right? They really can expand a lot of this into, future canon material in 2020, which is when the new EU is going to start, very much like how it started with, after the events of Return of the Jedi back in the 1980s. And that's the thing that I like so far about Palpatine, is that it's really tapping into everything related to Darth Plagueis and Palpatine's time on Jakku, how he used the ability to create life and how that connects to Rey's lineage and her parents. That's going to be another interesting thing to see on the big screen for sure. I think that a lot of fans are very much invested in, and the fact that they are throwing in a lot of Palpatine and Plagueis references is yet another powerful thing about, the Sith Master and the Apprentice that we only got heard of slightly in the forms of Legends material in the Plagueis book and so on and so forth. So with that being said, Disney and Lucasfilm really seems like they really are doubling down on Palpatine's return as the true, hype for this movie. The reason as to why fans want to go ahead and buy a ticket is to see exactly how Palpatine is going to interact with both Rey and Kylo Ren and how that's all going to really unfold told in this particular movie. So anyways guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.